Amazon review mining is a great, reliable, strangely, reliable way to find the messages that are likely to communicate what you're trying to communicate to your prospects in your copy. Can also work in other places, but we use it primarily for copywriting. Now, I talk about Amazon review mining because Amazon is filled with reviews, and a lot of those reviews are reliable and some of them are not, and you just have to like roll with it, right? Like, we're not always going to find a land filled with gems, right? You might have to go digging a bit to find some great ones, but nonetheless, when you do, and I'm going to show you how today, when you do go digging and mining through those Amazon reviews, you can find really incredible messages. We've only got about 20 minutes for the tutorial, so I won't get into it, but suffice it to say, some of our top performing messages ever have come from either Amazon reviews or mining the language that your customers are sharing in other ways. So Amazon, again, great place to go, but you can also use other review services or sites. Sometimes comments work really well on blog posts if you're trying to find problems and agitate those problems. So lots of places to go. The idea is that you don't go straight into your head, or you don't look over at your boss or your marketing lead and say, like, what should we say? No, that's like that. You think that's going to make the job go fast, but it won't. It'll slow things down dramatically, and you'll end up with like, why did we say that? Like, it didn't convert at all. Nobody knew what we were talking about. So Dina asked, hi, can you cover how to mine for service-based businesses? So we talk a lot about product businesses, like software in particular, because that's where Copyhackers focuses. That's where we were like born in the software world. And so we love it. But we love other businesses too. And we've had a service business, and we've worked with service-based businesses. And of course, the first case study that I often talk about in Amazon review mining discussions is when we worked with a rehab center in Florida. Fully service-based business, but we found a really sharp headline for them using Amazon review mining. So this definitely works for that too. The idea with reviews is that you're gonna look up, I rely on books, frankly, as a really good starting point. So I look at books that are basically hired for the job that a service would be hired for, or that a product would be hired for. So if the job you're trying to hire someone for is project management, which we're going to look at today as an example. So if you were a project management business where you provided contract project managers, or somehow you were a consultancy that was all about project management, let's say, that you'd still look at Amazon reviews for books about project management. You could still go in there and find important stuff, which I'm going to get into. I'm going to unpack what important means. But you could still go into Amazon reviews and find what people think that job is supposed to be about and what it's supposed to do. So it's not, the biggest thing in Amazon review mining is getting past the idea that we're talking about books and products that are separate from yours. You're not going to find a service reviewed on Amazon, of course. You're going to find the thing that replaced the service, or that was a shortcut to the service for people. And the language you'll see is just as useful for a service or a product as it is for like the book, right? So let me show you. This demos pretty well. I just want to make sure there was a hand raised and other questions. So Ariana also asked, what about all the fake reviews on Amazon? Do they matter? They still, yeah, you can tell. So as you go through a lot of reviews, and this is a really rapid exercise. You want to just fly through these. You don't want to be slowed down. You want to go through and review reviews to find messages that make you stop. So you're going quickly through them, blah, 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 reading through, and then something, you stop and you go back. The more of these reviews that you go through, the more you're like, ugh, obviously fake, ugh, obviously fake. And if you're wrong about that sometimes, that's okay. Sometimes you'll think a real review is fake, and sometimes a fake review looks really real. This isn't about having a perfect science. It's about having a little more science than you'd otherwise have. So don't look at yourself, don't look at the blank page. Instead, go to reviews and try finding your message there. So here's how. Let me share my screen. So you're seeing right now Amazon showing right on the screen. Cool. This is where, when I talk about Amazon review mining, a lot of people just jump right into the reviews. So I just want to back up. I want to back up a little bit because we have to know before we dive into the reviews, we'll do a better job review mining and finding messages that will actually turn into real copy for us if we back up and we think about what we're trying to fill in. Like, what are we even looking for? We can't just look for a bunch of interesting stuff. I mean, we kind of can, but it's not going to be as valuable as really knowing, like, okay, well, what's our goal? Like, not just to find messages, but what kinds of messages, like, how will they fit onto the page? So I talk a lot about frameworks and formulas because I have wasted my time on not using frameworks and formulas, and then I've used them and gone like, all this time I was like making that up, and I could have just been borrowing what other people had already used. So my favorite, without question, my favorite framework is problem, agitation, solution, or problem, agitate, solve. However you've learned it, problem, agitation, solution, all the way. I don't care if it sounds like, oh, Joanna only has that one trick up her sleeve. That's okay, because it's a really solid trick to have. So problem, agitation, solution. Now, when we're looking through Amazon reviews, we're really looking to fit things into problem, agitation, solution. So problems will be easy to find. So what is the problem that your product or service solves? And we find those problems discussed in the reviews. We find agitation as specifics, like people will say exactly how something felt like a pain or problem they experienced. And I'll show you what that means, but we're really looking for the specific stories, the examples that we could then put on the page to help people see themselves on the page, which is like the whole point, right? Like if they can see the page as a mirror of themselves when they join it, if they can buy in to the idea that this is me on this page, like I am getting this, like yes, 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 as they go down the page, then by the time they get to solution, you've got the momentum of yes going, right? So we're trying to help them see themselves and not along with us. Like I totally hear that. And that's where agitation is so beautiful. You can go on as long as is really palatable. In most cases, you'll know when you've gone too far, but usually I find like pushing agitation really does a great job. So we want to find a lot of examples and reviews of how people have felt a pain, like what drove them to go looking for a solution, like what's the challenge around all of that. So we're going to look for that. But now the important part for this exercise, because problem and agitation, that's going to be really easy to find. It's the solution part of the framework. So we want to break down solution. The beauty and the pain of the PAS framework is that solution is so big, or it can be so small, but solution is not defined. We get problem and we get an agitation of the problem, so we can kind of imagine that kind of closing up. But then solution is this like enormous space we have to fill in, and we're like, well, how much do I say under solution? What do I say at all? So these are 4 points that I like to follow when I'm review mining, and again, other types of mining that we do. Under solution, and you can do this too, you can just type this exact framework out, problem, agitation, solution, and then underneath do how people describe the solution, the specific value people get from that solution, how it will make life instantly better for them, and how it makes life better in the long term. And that's like the 5-second, 5-mile, or 5-inch, 5-mile benefit thing, those last 2 points. But so knowing what we're aiming for, we're going to be looking for problems. We're going to be looking for specific examples of those problems in real life. Then we're going to look at how people describe the solution. And again, we're not going to be looking at a solution that like a review for a product, likely, at least that is ours. So I'm looking at Amazon book reviews to try to find how people describe the solution for things that are not that book. But you'll see exactly how this can absolutely work. Specific value, specific. So again, that's like we agitated the problem, and now we want to agitate the solution, right? And agitate sounds negative, of course, but agitating that solution is really just making them feel it. So that specific value that they get from it, how it makes their life instantly better, so benefits in the short term, and then, of course, the long-term benefits as well, so on and so forth. We have to know what product it is that we're looking at. So in this case, I've just switched back to outline here. We've got our prospect is going to be a problem-aware team leader, and the product we're selling them is Basecamp project management solution or software. Okay, so we have nothing. Here we have stuff because I've already gone ahead and done this because we've got 20 minutes, but I do want to go over and show you how to do this, and then I'll show you how to get those reviews into the page and how quickly it can all go. Okay, so over to Amazon.com. We go in here, and I've already looked up project books, of course, so project management books. So what you want to do is you want to identify the what, like what is the thing that you're really selling. So if it's a service, if it's legal advice, or if it's midwifery, let's say. I don't know what it might be, but then you look that up. That's the what. That's the thing that you're trying to sell. So midwife, you could look that up. You could look up law for dummies or the law or something and see what Amazon presents to you. Accounting services, same kind of thing. How to be an accountant, how to do accounting, accounting 101, that kind of stuff. So they're books that people use to solve the problem that otherwise humans would solve, or software would solve, or some other problem would, or some other solution would solve. So that's why I go to books, and because there's so many of them and people leave reviews for them. There's a long history of leaving reviews for books. So what you want to do is find a selection of books, and then just open them. Just right-click on them and open in new tabs. So I'm going to do, let's do this one, and I've got a couple already open up here, you'll see. So I like to look at about 6 books, at least 6 books, and it's important usually to find books that have a lot of reviews, because the ones that have like 12 or 13 reviews, the ratio of fake to real reviews is usually pretty high. So we want a lot of reviews in the hopes that some of those are actually real reviews. So 54 customer reviews, I feel pretty good about that. So we're gonna just click that. I'm gonna go over to the next one. 35 customer reviews, we're getting down there a little bit, but I'm gonna try that and see. And this one has 39. So let's go back to the first one. You can look at 5-star and 1-star, but what you're mostly going to find is in 2, 3, and 4 stars. That's where the reality lives. Like, people are more critical of it. They're more honest with their experience. It doesn't mean you discount the 1s and 5s. I still look at those because this is a fast-moving exercise, so you can look at all of them. But if you do have a book or a product, whatever, it doesn't have to be books, but I do books. That's where I find the best stuff. So you can look at whatever you want to. Point here is just to look at those reviews. So you can go through all of them, but if you have something where it's got like, I mean, I think the Amazon Echo has like 20,000 reviews. If you wanted to write a page for that, you'd probably want to narrow those reviews down. So of course you choose the right, like 4 stars, 2, 3 stars, somewhere in there, and the most useful reviews, things like that. But Amazon has those tools to help you sort out which ones to look at anyway. Okay, so now we actually go through and start looking. let's go right to 4-star and see. So when we're reading through this again, it's really rapid, and I did this in advance because you don't want to sit there and watch me read through these reviews and go like, oh, okay, and it's very hard to do it knowing people are watching you too. But you can go through, and what you're looking for is, again, you're moving fast, and you're looking for language that stops you, that's a little stickier, that's saying things in a different way. And this is, you might go through 30 reviews and not find anything. I took, to get all these cards I'm going to show you over here with all of these reviews, or these little snippets in them, I took about 20 minutes to do that. And it's really, again, a quick-paced thing. But if you might find in the first 5 minutes that you've got nothing, and it feels like it's taking a long time. You maybe clipped like 2 things, and then you keep moving through for the rest of, let's say, 20 minutes. But by the end, you'll find that you have quite a bit and a lot to work with. And then you can also see gaps, which I'll show you as well. And then you go back and you fill in those gaps. So let's say, okay, this is a book about project management. As introduction, I'm a practicing, great, so this is a project manager, I use the system. Brilliant part of this book lays out a very simple matrix for tracking and reporting key project deliverables, identifying responsible parties, and okay. I might take this because it's some things when we think back to how people describe the solution, the specific value they get from it, this could go under how they describe the solution, right? It might be, so tracking, or it's important stuff for us to note when we're writing a page and we're like, well, what's important for people to understand? Well, tracking and reporting key deliverables, identifying people that should be doing the job, reporting progress. Okay, so maybe that's all important. I'm just gonna right click that. And then send it back there, just half a second. I'm trying to recall what the name is of, let me just go back and look at the how to say it worksheet. That's right, because I did that for a worksheet. Worksheet, send it back, and I just keep going through. The Excel templates are available for an additional fee, but I'm too damn cheap to buy them. That's kind of interesting, good enough with Excel to make my own templates. That just might be a good insight to have. I'm gonna take it as well. Oh, close that. Oh, I'm sorry, yep, you're right, I didn't close this down. So you want to make sure you do that. If you do use AirStory, just make sure you do that. I'm going to right click, send that away. And actually, this is not bad. This guy's got some pretty good stuff. The 4 stars is usually a good place to go. Okay, so worksheet again. And then we keep going through. And now I've found 2 things already, and I'm not being super picky right now either because I'm doing this live here too, but because it's actually not that crappy. Like, it's a pretty good review. I also created tabs for an action list, a risk register, an issues list, all sorts of things. These weren't even mentioned in the book. What I ended up with is a project notebook that is a one-stop shop for everything but meeting minutes. I like it, this one-stop shop, but I don't think I'm going to take it. The other key deficiency I learned to deal with is that every place I've been insists on a plan, either in MS Project or, okay, most places also have specific reporting requirements, okay? You either sell the boss on the system or you conform to their ways and use this as your own personal backup. Okay, so this guy again is a PMP, so, but I am going to take that. So you can go through and keep, sorry, I'm not being clear with what I'm saying because I'm always like distracted, like your brain is still working on what you can do with that, right? So, okay, so if we go through and do that for all these reviews, one after the other, knowing that some are gonna be better than others, we don't have to tag them, you don't have to do anything with your clicks right now. You're just going through and trying to find language that stops you. Ideally, also, it's going to fit into those categories. But number 1 is that it's language that stops you. It's specific. It's saying something real. It's talking about benefits, talking about the problems that people had that drove them to look for this solution. All good stuff. So then we go back to the project. And now is the part where we go through and start tagging what we found. So this is official comment. Get rid of anything that's not useful. You either sell the boss in the system or you conform to their ways and use this as your own personal backup. So what we want to do is tag. I just want to tag my cards. That's all I'm going to do at this point. So I can tag it as describing the solution, value. I think that one that I did there is, hold on, I've got tags down here already. Oh yeah, makes life better. And then long-term is the other one. So I'd go through and tag these to see, or problem or agitation. Okay, cool. So you choose as you go through. Let's get rid of that. You either sell the boss on the system. I'm gonna put it under agitation. Again, it might not end up there in the final form, but I'm gonna put it under agitation. Excel templates are available for an additional fee, but I'm too damn cheap to buy them. I don't think I'm going to use this. I don't see that it's going to describe the solution because it's about something different from this. Specific value, how it makes life instantly better or better in the long term. It's also not a problem or agitation. It's just kind of an interesting insight. So I'm just going to archive that one. Then we go into the next, tracking and reporting key project deliverables, identifying responsible parties. This is more of a solution, right? This is it's not value, but it could go under solution. It could be part of the page. We can imagine where we talk about the things that are inside the solution. It's not a benefit. Although reporting progress, I might also then tag it under makes life better. And then we'll go with that. Okay, so those are the new cards that I've added here. If you went through and kept doing this exercise, you'd get a whole bunch of cards just like I already did. So I'll show you what those look like. I've already been through this exercise where I've tagged things, and now all I have to do is drag them onto the page and start organizing it. So this is where life gets really easy. We're like, yay, all I have to do is drag things in. So I do agitation as the first one. This is solution and makes life better. I'm going to currently put it under makes life better, and then we'll see when I start writing. That's just the framework for this problem we've got up here. Agitation some more. Problem makes life better. Value. Agitation. Value. Value. Solution. Value. Lots of value here, you can see. And then agitation. And then we've got this whole other column as well around long-term. Value. You get to just listen to the value. Some more value, lots of value here. That's good. So that's going to make for a nice area. And this is just a solution as well. Refreshingly practical could be a good way to describe it. That was possibly not useful here. Another problem. Some more agitation, deadlines to meet. Another problem. Some more agitation, and then we've got one long term. Okay, so we've gone through, and now we have all these cards in this order. I'm just going to shrink it up so you can see. So we've still got problem, agitation, solution, and we can go into each one and see what's inside there and under solution as well. I'm going to go over to this view. So this is just the regular document view, and because I'm swiping language here, I'm not, it's going to capture all of, AirStory already took all the citations and like all the source material for it. I'm not interested really in going through and doing much more than maybe organizing the page, and then I'm just going to merge all the documents. So I'm going to start with the problem. Being a good boss might be, so these feel close together, people to manage, and this is an engineer. There must be a better way. We might put that under agitation now that I look at it. So here I can just go through and organize things. And let's say that I put everything into the order I feel good about. All I have to do is merge cards now. And now I can replace each one of these, problem, agitation, and solution, with all of these beneath them with a crosshead to describe what's within. I could take any of this stuff that I've got here, whether a project sinks or sales, falls on the shoulders of the leader. What if that was my headline? Could be, whether a project sinks or sales falls on the shoulder of the leader. Let's say, so we start with that, and now we've actually got, I'm not sitting here wondering what to say, or frankly how to say it then. I'm just filling this in and starting from a really strong place where my job then becomes stitching all of this stuff together. So that's the core of how you use Amazon review mining to write a page where you can actually now go through this, take 20 minutes to clean it all up, then go over it, grab some formulas from our big formulas post, and start optimizing the little pieces of it just to make sure that anything that doesn't feel or might not be as optimal as possible. So great, so we spend an hour putting together a page filled with language that is more likely to convert because it's not fake marketing messages, it's actual real stuff that people have really said. So that is the core of how to use Amazon review mining to write a landing page, an email, a long form sales page, whatever it is that you're working on writing, your home page, any of it. Okay, so hopefully that is clear. Hopefully you can see how this stuff will work. Are there any questions? Oh, there are no outstanding questions.
Elizabeth asked in Q&A.
Oh, under Q&A.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, I just have to open that up. Okay, how relevant is Amazon review mining for marketing a nascent technology or service offering? Are there any cases where Amazon review mining? Sure. I mean, Amazon review mining isn't going to be useful when I'm trying to think of something, but I mean, if you don't buy into Amazon review mining, you won't find the gold that's buried out there. So there is that initial hurdle that you have to get over. And I know a lot of people do. A lot of people go through it and then they start like grabbing every line because it's hard to have that initial filter to go like, okay, well, what's actually making me stop and why is it making me stop? Is this copy worth swiping or not? And so, yeah, but I say, yeah, there must be cases where it's not useful because I don't believe that it would be accurate to just answer, no, it's useful in every possible case. I'm sure there are cases, but I use it for everything. And if it's not Amazon, it's some other review service or forums as well, going on places like Reddit, always knowing that there's going to be a filter that you're going to have to use, right? Sometimes you're going to get in, especially on Reddit, you might get into like a world where it's a really heated conversation. And it's that dramatic sort of emotion that can be problematic when you're trying to find language that's going to convert your prospect. But no, if it's not Amazon review mining, it's going to be other places that you go to that where your customers and prospects have been talking openly about solutions like yours. And if it's not your solution, it's something else, some other solution they hired to do the job that your solution does. That's what we're looking for. So hopefully that's helpful. Okay. Okay. How do you PAS and other awareness stages? PAS works in every stage of awareness. It just seems most natural in problem stage of awareness, but at every stage you have a problem. So I have found at every stage you have a problem to solve. Now there are going to be those solutions that aren't problem-y, right? Where it's like, is it a painkiller or is it a delighter? So painkillers are really phenomenal and most of us are making painkillers. Some consumer products are not painkillers. Like a sweater is not a painkiller, but a sweater is also a hard thing to solve if you can't identify the problem. And it all comes down to things like price or which celebrity was wearing it. So in almost every case, you should be working actually to use something like problem agitation solution. And again, it's like, the edge always sounds like the edge in you too. Like you can always hear them. That's not a problem, right? It's not bad to have something that you sound like, that you rely on. And for me, it's PAS. It's going to be that framework. It works again and again, keeps working, doesn't stop working in every stage of awareness, even in unaware. When you're creating content and things for unaware people to try to get them toward problem awareness, you're still going to enter the conversation with them around a problem that they're having. And that's a really solid way to pull them into a conversation. It doesn't mean that you have to have the problem be some dramatic thing, right? It doesn't have to be that dramatic, but what is the problem you're solving? Whether that's like for Air Story, it's like write faster. We're positioning it as the benefit, right? You're still talking about the benefit, but underlying that is the problem, which is, oh man, I'm working so slowly. I need to work faster. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Paige, Kristen asked, can you please define agitation again for this process? Yeah, agitation is the part where you make your reader feel it. And that's like the most fun. That's like incredible fun when you, for a geek, I guess, like me. But the agitation part is where you get to say like, so for Sweat Block, this is a common example because we really like zeroed in and just dedicated ourselves to the PAS framework with that page that we tested that got a really awesome paid lift. The agitation part was around, so Sweat Block as an example, Sweat Block is it's a clinical strength antiperspirant. So we opened with the problem, which is my underarms are always wet even when it's not hot out. And then we agitated that with like, basically, have you experienced these situations? You have to wear black all the time. You can't high five in the summer. You can't high five anytime. You're afraid of going in for the hug because you might get the person damp. So those are the agitation parts where by the end of it, you're like, holy crap. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's exactly how I feel. That's the point. And then whoop, you swoop in with the solution, and it's like, everybody's happy now because there's this problem that they're feeling so deeply by that point, and then you solve it. So hopefully that helps, Kristen. James asks, hi, Jay, can you show us a real example of a finished copy using this process? Not in this tutorial. That would be me writing the copy live, which would be a ridiculous thing for me to try to do because
for clients like Sweatblock and
oh yeah, I mean, this is what we use for clients like Sweatblock. Exactly. Like Sweatblock has 5,000, 4,000 Amazon reviews. I didn't have to write anything. I didn't have to write a flippin' word of it. I just go over and clip it. If you go to Sweatblock on Amazon.com, then you can see that, and then go to sweatblock.com and you can see how that language has made its way onto the page. So that's just an example. But yeah, good point. Hopefully that helps, James. Violetta asked, do you rate the comments by frequency? Do you mean like how many times something appears? Like, so if I keep seeing something, what's going to come out is if I keep clipping something and your brain shouldn't get too involved in this process. You're assigned to the job of just grabbing stuff that holds you and like grabs you in, like pulls you in. So knowing that, my job when I'm doing review mining isn't to go, hey, I've seen this comment like 4 times already. I might think that, but my job isn't then to interject and start summarizing. So what will happen is when you see the same thing again and again and you drag it into the right part of the page, you'll see, oh, they're all saying this the same way. So maybe I'll organize that at the top of this section, putting together my hierarchy of messages in that section. And let's say if it kept coming up that, let's see, forecasting for agitation here. If I kept clipping forecasting, people were saying forecasting, then I might organize that at the top of this agitation section where I could say, is forecasting a problem? How about this stuff too, right? And then get into it. So your people are already feeling that forecasting is. But again, there's some people for whom forecasting will not be a thing. But that's always the situation when we're writing copy, is we're doing our best with the information we have, and ideally we're going to test it too. Ideally, knowing we can't test everything. But sometimes you're going to be pulling in copy that snagged you that someone else wrote, but that might not still be the ultimate message for everybody, but it might make for really good copy on a targeted landing page. So that's where this can work exceptionally well. But I say that just as a slight caveat. It's not actually anything that I've ever run into as a real problem. Like, oh no, I thought that was a big deal, and in fact nobody thinks it's a big deal because I found it in reviews. And so I know that there's stronger reason to believe that we've got something to work with when we find it somewhere else versus when we sit around a boardroom table. I know that went off topic a little bit for you, Violetta, but yeah, if you see the same thing appearing again and again, then you'll probably want to prioritize that. I would prioritize that in the right section of the page. Cool. Okay. Lori asks, I get this question every time. Lori asks, are there any copyright issues with using someone else's words from reviews? It's public domain content out there, right? Like, and I'm not, the copyright that I do is not copyright law, of course. So I would say, I mean, no, because you're taking a snippet of something and you are then using it in copy on a page. There are like percentages of things, right? So you'd have to look at your local laws or your like federal laws for wherever you are. But if you're very curious about that, I know that there's like a percentage of the published text that you're allowed to use without worrying about citing it. So that means that, or without getting permission from the author. So it can be as much as like a page out of Twilight, the book, let's say. If you're concerned about it, look into it.
Fair use, Mark suggests.
Oh, look up fair. Sorry, Mark just said look up fair use. Yeah. So cool. Do that. I haven't, and because we're not here. all we're trying to do is listen. It's like if I overheard a conversation happening, then I was like, oh crap, did she just say that? That's really interesting. If I was trying to write copy for a hair salon, I would sit in the hair salon in the front area, and like I would watch people look at their hair, and I would listen to them talk about it to their stylist. I would be pulling in that messaging instead of sitting there and not doing it. So all we're doing is listening in on conversations. That's the idea. Now, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe someone out there would argue that we're doing something else, but I have never come across this, but I do get this question every time. If you're concerned about it, do what feels right to you. I am completely not concerned about it in any way. Hopefully that helps, Lori. And I've done this a bajillion times. All you're really doing is taking that little bit of language and putting it into copy. I mean, anybody could have said it, right? Anybody could have said, stumbling through some incredibly complex project. Okay, anybody could have said that. The person who wrote that, if they found that copy on someone's site and went back and said, I think that's exactly what I wrote on that Amazon review, and then pursued something, okay, that's like a crazy world to live in. I don't know what to do there. Sure, contact your lawyer at that point. Okay, Charles, does the nature of the content you mine ever make you abandon? Yeah. Sometimes when when I'm writing a homepage, I don't often use problem agitation solution, but I completely loathe writing homepages anyway, for a billion reasons we'll get into in other tutorials. But yeah, there's other really good frameworks, right? Like I have a friend over at Agora, and he uses the 4 Ps religiously. Some others swear by ADA, attention, interest, desire, action. Great. And sometimes it does make better sense to use one of those frameworks. When I say I always use PAS, I don't mean that every single thing I've ever written does, because if you look at any of my emails, even they don't often use PAS. I try to hook in a different way. But if I had to recommend a PAS framework, or a framework, it would be PAS. And sure, if I find other content out there, if you do, you can obviously reorganize that. But I would recommend that you do use a framework so that you're not just kind of randomly organizing stuff on the page and making it up as you go. The content, what you've pulled in won't be as valuable if you don't organize it on the page in a persuasive way. Okay, Omar, what do you see in a review that makes you think it's fake? Usually a glowing review or something that is that sounds like it. Well, usually it's going to be pretty short too, or it makes it sound like the author is like a genius. Something like that, where it's like, someone's friend wrote that in there. So it's really just, going on gut in some cases, right? Like with anything, if it sounds fake, if it looks fake, let's just call it fake and move on. We've got other reviews we can be looking at. Anonymous asked, what if the industry is too broad, like marketing or copywriting? How do you zero in to look for the copy morsels? Well, it depends what you're writing. So if you're gonna talk about, you can go through and just do some huge, if you wanted to say, look, I want to get all my messages together for everything I might ever write over the course of this year about how to be a better marketer, how to be a better digital marketer. Okay, great. So you're going to write landing pages, emails, content, all sorts of stuff as you go. You could just go and then do a huge Amazon session where you look up books about digital marketing. You could look up blogs about digital marketing and go through the comments on those blogs, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, I don't know why you would go so broad. I wouldn't. This is such a quick exercise that every time you're going to write something, you should just go do the exercise at that point. So that's all I would do and all I have done. If I'm going to write about copywriting, well, what's the thing I'm writing about? Is it how to be a better email copywriter? Is it how to write a better SaaS onboarding campaign as an email copywriter? If I can zero in on that, then I can write more convincing, compelling copy using reviews that are more specific to that, instead of this general overarching problem of not being able to find copy or to write copy that converts or something like that. But nonetheless, you can still go find books about copywriting 101, copywriting for dummies, marketing 101, marketing for dummies. That's going to be your broad stuff. And then when it gets down into it, if you look at how to write a SaaS onboarding campaign, or how to convert trial users to paid via email, you could then get into books about SaaS, and then get into maybe more targeted blog posts and other things like that that are about that specific topic. Okay. Paige, do you set a time limit or other constraint when doing this? Yeah, do it. Do it. 20 minutes is usually the best amount of time to spend on Amazon review mining. If you only get through a handful of reviews in that time, you're not doing it fast enough. Fly through it. Push yourself to just move through it quickly. 20 minutes got me, I think, 20 snippets that as I was pulling them out, I was like, ugh, I'm not getting anything here. This stuff sucks. And then when I went over and tagged and started organizing it, putting it on the page, I'm like, okay, I actually did get some stuff here. There's actually lots to work with. So 20 minutes should give you all that you need. Okay, Lee, could you elaborate on why you don't use PAS? It's not that I don't, okay, sorry, the whole question is, could you elaborate on why you don't use PAS for home pages specifically? I'll get into home pages in a tutorial another time, but home pages for me, and anybody who cares about getting them right, I think probably also loathes home pages unless you've found some killer thing, in which case, please come teach me, because home pages attract everybody. You can't tell who's there, who should be there, who shouldn't be there, at what stage of awareness they're in, which is like the number one question I have when I'm writing something. So in the absence of knowing that, it's sometimes just, you don't know what problem to open with because everybody's feeling different things. Everybody's in different stages. They might be looking for a coupon. So it's not just that I don't use PAS for home pages. I just don't like writing home pages. I have used PAS for it. The sweat block example, again, that was for a home page where I used PAS. I just used it for Edgar from meetedgar.com. That's not live on there. That's not being tested yet. It's just, I just finished writing the page. So I have definitely used it for home pages. I just don't like home pages, and so sometimes it's hard to find that opening problem, and that's why we often like lead with more of a long-term benefit or something like that. But yeah, it's my personal dislike for writing home pages, which are such messy things. Okay, hopefully that helps, Lee. James, hi again, Jay. Is PAS the most effective outline to use because it converts at the highest rate? The most consistently for home pages, emails, and then that's a leading question, James. Yes. Yeah, no, it's a really reliable framework to open with a problem and agitate it, and then getting into the solution and spending as much time or as little time as you need to based on what your offer is. So you might problem, agitate, and then solve very quickly in an email where the solution is like, click here to find the solution. That's not the actual language, but that's what would happen. So that's why it can be so effective, is matching that opening pain. If you have a strong reason to believe that you understand what the problem is that your prospect is feeling, then if you can match what's going on in their head there, then you're good. Brian asked, how do you present, would you do a presentation on building about pages? Oh, that's just another one. Sure. Yeah, we can do that down the road. About pages are very different. There's largely story-driven in a lot of cases. So I can talk about examples of about pages, but they're usually all different. Like when I did Dan Martell's about page, it was like all about his story of when he was little, and it was like this really personal thing that might not also, probably wouldn't work for a SaaS about page or something like that. But yeah, we can talk about that more down the road. Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming to this tutorial Tuesday. Have a good day, guys. Bye.